OMG, we're live.
Hey.
Hello there.
It's us.
Hi.
It's us.
Hi.
How's it going, everybody?
We survived the session 0, everyone.
Did we?
I mean, there's only 3 of us here. That's true. There
Yeah.
could be.
3 of us survived. Not
I mean,
so
one of us
sure.
is guaranteed to survive.
That's true. That
O-
is true.
only-
Yeah, it's
only
really
one of
great
us is
that
guaranteed to
Katie has
survive.
like the plot armor of being
Oh no, I'll fucking
your
kill
wife
Katie.
now. I get it.
100%.
Oh, I was going to say, I have the plot armor of being a mother. And if you kill a mother, that's fucked up. With small children.
No. I will kill all of your mothers, and then I'll kill you last in front of your kids.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
I'll do it. Don't throw the gauntlet down like you being a mother
Well.
is somehow gonna save your life. Mm-mm.
I have children.
Well, Balor, welcome to the stream, and everyone else deciding to watch.
Adversity
This is,
makes a child stronger.
This is what you're walking into, just so you know.
What's up, Balor? How you doing? Oh,
So how do we want to do this?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it's the first thing that we should sort of establish is like what we had initially thought was going to happen was we were going to sort of like have people do almost like little breakout sessions in character, and what ended up happening was basically more of a therapy session where I got to find out all the like the fun, juicy tidbits about their backstories and their lives and the things they do and don't like that I can then weaponize against them over the course of the campaign. And by weaponize, of course, what I really mean is explore.
Balor, you hit the nail on the head there. We are pretty much all orphans. It's great.
Yeah, there's a lot
I'm
of,
not an orphan.
but
I might have orphans by the end of this campaign, but
pretty much doesn't mean that all, though, right? It's not everyone's an orphan.
You're like a reverse orphan, Katie. You just had your kids taken away from you.
that's so true. I'm an orphaned parent.
An orphaner.
Wait, no.
Yeah, wow, Katie.
What?
It's like a widower. An
That
orphaner.
makes it sound like it's my fault, and
Well,
it's definitely not my
mean,
fault.
It might be. We'll find out.
The viewers will have to
Can
have to watch to find out. But so far, right now, the viewers will never know.
That's true.
We're just building up hype. This is all this is. This is the hype train.
Imagine if I turned your whole backstory on its head and you're actually like this horrific person. Oh,
is Katie's character actually an evil PC?
Is Katie's character the big bad?
The big?
The big bad.
The big bad? The biggest of bads?
I had a thought,
Mm.
which is, as I download a couple files very quickly, why don't we kind of go through character by character, and I can even show you their pictures, because we have those now.
Oh, that is such a fantastical idea.
I think that could be fun. Well, the first one in this is our sweet little bugbear friend. So let's go.
Played by Omar from Tale of D20s, who you guys have seen on our streams plenty of times.
Let's go full screen this bitch. Here we go.
Oof. There it is.
That is Alistar.
What a fancy boy.
He's a fancy,
He really is
lad.
a fancy boy.
Pretty messed up background.
Super messed up.
I will say, I'm actually very curious to hear this conversation, because at the time I was intentionally trying not to pay attention because I didn't want to know things my character wouldn't know. But I've decided that is silly, and I would like to know all of the things. So,
Katie, we can do this now, remember?
Yes.
Well, so here's the thing. I don't know how much of Alistar's background I want to share.
I think it's important to sort of share what is known more broadly. We don't want to get into too much.
You know his name is Alistar.
Yeah.
Maybe the way to go about this might actually be from your perspective, Zeki, from your character.
Yeah.
Oh,
as opposed to me, the DM, because I have all of the information. But a more
This is
interesting
true.
way might be an introduction from another PC.
This is Zeki.
Look at that cute little fella.
Look at him. Look at his little snout.
A little snoot.
Can I
And
put them
my
next to each other? Let's see.
Big old red eyes.
Well, so actually, interestingly enough, so one thing that I think is probably worth discussing, we've sort of ended up with
Two separate groups.
two separate groups of three.
Yeah.
So why don't let's do it this way. Let's look at our first little
And
trio.
viewers, we leave it up to you to decide who the A team and B teams are.
Oh snap!
I'm just joking. That would be not cool, y'all.
So this is our second or our third rather. So we've got this is Omar, this is Zeki, and then this is Alex.
Wait, Katie, aren't you running a thing on Twitter to see if people can guess they get a beanie?
Yeah, no one's fucking guessed, so I'm just telling you, dumb bitches.
All right. Well. I was gonna say maybe don't give it away. You could just be like,
Okay,
"Hey,
fine,
we know,
I won't
we know
give it
these
away."
two." Well, I mean, you get 50%
like,
chance of like
we have
half
aided
the roster's
you.
been knocked off, so like it's a lot easier now.
Yeah, 50% of the
people have to-
characters.
There are two people watching the stream right now. Everyone else has no idea, so I think we're okay.
That's fair.
But yeah, so Zeki, I guess from your perspective as this little cutie right here, tell us about the three of you.
Do you want me to like say this like in character or?
Do you want to say it in character?
I don't know. I don't know if the public is ready for that. I don't know if I'm ready for the public to be ready for that.
Also fair. Yeah, you don't have to do it in character if you don't want to, but I think you can enlighten us at least a little bit.
Oh, hey, Caitlin, Asher, thank you so much for the subscription.
Thank you.
It was amazing.
Thank
Hello.
you.
Hello. Hope you're doing well. Happy New Year.
Oh yeah, Happy New Year to anyone that
Happy
we
New
didn't
Year
see
to
yesterday.
everybody. Yeah.
And also, I guess if we did see you yesterday, Happy New Year to you too.
Yeah.
Yes,
We don't
the
discriminate
art is
about who gets to
amazing.
have a Happy New Year.
All right, Zeki. Actually, first, why don't you just tell us about you?
Tell us, you want to hear about me?
Tell us about this cute little guy.
Tell us about this cute
So,
little
My name
toothy
is.
creature.
My name is Cornucopia. In case you needed more funny names, he goes by Corey, and or Cope. I mean, honestly, I'll probably respond to anything at this point of the campaign.
Hey, you, tit, huh?
What? That's me. But I'm going to be playing this interesting little kobold that has like kind of this like crazy story. I'm only 9 years old, which is a full adult by kobold standards.
How long do kobolds live?
Not that long if you follow adventuring party rules.
That's so sad.
Yeah. And what's it
Yeah.
like basically like the same, approximately like a dog or cat, right?
I mean, they're kind of
Okay.
like cats
No.
for dragons, especially.
Okay.
Says they can live up to 135 years.
Yeah, but none of them do because they're just cannon fodder for low-level adventurers trying to make their way in the
That's-
world.
That's fair. This is
Or
fair.
like pissing off dragons that they have failed to like make happy.
Yeah. Not very
Dragons
smart.
Very fair.
Smart or durable. Yeah, neither of those things are typically
Yeah.
what is associated with dragons.
Which is why at the ripe old age of 9, I feel like I've seen a lot of the world, to be honest. I had a pretty traumatic like separation of my family. Not that I really remember them. I think I remember my mom. But like no other siblings or anything that I can't actually remember. I mean, the DM may try to say differently, but
I have some notes.
that is the deal. And I've been like living out in the woods, right? And I found my patron that way. Actually, there was this ancient dragon who I happened to make a pact with in probably a not so great moment of my life. You could argue I was probably at one of my lowest points. Let me also say that lowest point not by my own like volition or free will.
That's a important thing to highlight.
Out of curiosity, is the reason that you got, and I'm just going to pretend like anything I do know, I'm going to pretend that I don't know. Is this is our above the table and below the table, as brought to us by the perfect Rachel Quirky, and we all loved it, and we were using it the whole time during session 0, where it would be like, "This is how I feel, but this is how she actually feels." So I'm going to pretend I don't know anything. Zeki, the reason that you were at this lowest point, is that something that you want to share with the viewers, or is that something that's going to be unraveled over the course of this campaign?
Oh, that's spicy. That's a spicy question.
Spicy for a whole bunch of different reasons.
There's actually like a lot of reasons. Like, number one, I don't necessarily want to blow up anybody's spot. Number two, they're going to be known a specific way now, and a different thing, and like also like that's like personal tea for like all of you guys to dig into once we're all like adventuring together.
Fair. Okay.
What's
so
up,
what I'm hearing is secret.
It is secret, and actually, with ATOD in the chat, I guess we can talk about their character now that they are here.
Hell yeah. Also, Omar, if you wanted to pop into that StreamYard link, I don't know what you're up to, or if you're busy, like, you're more than welcome to pop in for a minute and chat, or otherwise just stay in our chat, and that's fine too.
Break time. Heck yeah.
Cool.
Oh, excellent.
Hello, Cass.
What's up, Cass?
So I guess, and anything that I ask, feel free to say that is secret and we don't want to talk about it. But how did these two meet?
Well, what happened was after I had been in the woods for a while, I met this super nice monk who wanted to show me all the good that they've done.
I do want to be clear. This is the monk in question. I know that might not have been clear based on the picture. But this right here is the world's largest and heaviest monk.
Yeah, maybe an 1800s oil baron also.
Monk.
Potentially.
So, yeah, so you met a large green monk.
Yeah, and
I just get hung up on the art. It's so cool.
He's a bugbear, correct?
Yeah,
yes.
And you know, yeah, that is a bugbear. And I wasn't super keen on them at first.
Because bugbear.
Sure, yeah, I mean,
large, scary, you're small, fragile.
Many reasons. Potentially
snackable, you know.
Yeah. So there was definitely like many reasons why maybe not trusting this bugbear all at once, right?
Sure.
So then eventually they had shown me how good of a person they'd become, or are, I guess, you know, time being in like a monastery or whatever. And with that, I then kind of introduced them to...
There we go. Sorry, things are being weird on my screen. It's fine.
No, it's okay. To my other friend, Bill.
If you go like that, it goes interesting. Okay, I can use a computer. Everything is fine.
Proud of you.
Thank you.
And that is Bill.
And that's Bill.
The person being stretched and cropped.
Yes, correct.
And Bill and I actually have met several times in this small village outside of the woods, like right next to the woods. And I, you know, tend to think of myself as a little bit of a sleuth, maybe sort of an investigator.
Would you call yourself a 9-year-old kid detective, maybe?
I am a fully adult detective.
But you are 9 years old.
But I am 9 years old and a detective. And I have done some detecting with Bill. And now the three of us actually have been looking into, you know, maybe some potential blight problems.
Yeah. Detector, I barely even know her.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. There's been some reports of a forest having some issues with a probably magical blight. I think you guys would have determined that at this point, that it's not some sort of like aggressive fungus or something like that. It's just like moved in an invasive species. Like this is something unnatural.
Correct. And if this is something that's going to be affecting the forest that I live, I very much need to get to the root of the problem.
And now that's a pun. Haha. Blight, trees, forest, root.
Invasive species, the English.
All three of these, do you all hail from the forest? Again, pretending that I know nothing.
So no, I am, I think, the only one that lives in the forest. I think Bill spends a great amount of time in the forest as well, but
I thought Bill was from the forest. I thought he and his family. Is that correct, Ben?
Yes, Bill's family is originally from the forest, specifically in the area that the blight has. I don't know if it's originated there, but it's certainly where the effects are being felt the most acutely.
Okay.
So you two at least have a vested interest in, and
Yes.
Omar is from where?
He had been staying nearby the forest, but then he was at that monastery, so I don't know if the monastery is at the top of the hill next to the village, or maybe somewhere else.
The monastery is pretty remote.
Yeah.
Actually, the monastery is a couple 100 miles away from where you guys will be starting out. Yeah,
high in the mountains.
High in the mountains. Yeah, there's quite a bit of space. Yeah.
But at least a few days ride from this forest.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, Zeki, you are very much motivated by fixing the blight, yes?
I mean, I can't let my patron be affected by such a blight, such a foul corruption.
Yeah. Okay.
Very, very responsible of you.
Well, I just want to make my patron happy, because maybe one day I'll get wings.
I forgot about that.
Hell yeah.
I forgot that all this little kobold wants is some wings.
It's true.
Oh, that's so funny. And then Omar, or I guess Ben, depending on who gets to it first. What is it that Omar wants? What is Omar's hopes, dreams?
Alistar's goal is to be a powerful source of good in the world, to have a positive impact. I think first and foremost, and then I think secondarily, there's a bit of an older sibling relationship to little Corey, and so in addition to wanting to do good himself, another strong motivator for Alistar is wanting to ensure that Corey grows up to be a powerful, also doer of good. And I assume that, Zeki, I don't want to speak out of turn here and say that you've necessarily shared your ambitions of one day achieving wings with Al, but I would assume that if that's what you're striving for, then Al is fully backing you on that. And Omar, you're in chat. Feel free to chime in on that one if you have thoughts, or Zeki, if you feel like you've shared that, or maybe you haven't shared that. I don't know.
What I am very much enjoying, as someone who was in both this recap and the session 0, is how when you just sort of talk about the motivations and where people come from, this sounds so light and fun and easy, and I know how much is under the surface.
This is
all of these characters.
This is all notes on all the different ways that I can emotionally destroy my players.
Like, I very much don't want to give anything away, but I will say at one point I tuned into Omar and Ben chatting, and all I heard is Omar say, I really want to use this as an outlet to explore my neurodivergence. And I was just like, I love this. This is so cool. It's so like wonderful to have a group who, can really dig into this shit and have sort of the what you see and what you don't see. I'm now changing it up. This should be what you don't see. This should be what you see. It's fine. I know.
Above the glass box, inside the glass box.
Correct. And I know, like, Zeki, I don't necessarily want to speak for you or for Omar, but I know that, like, for Alex, I'll speak for Alex. Alex can't defend himself. There's a lot going on with his character around sort of his family and what has happened with his family. I don't know, Ben, if that's something that is secretive or something that it's okay to sort of just share the easy beats.
Yeah, I can share some easy beats. There's some like general info that is reasonable. So first and foremost, here's the Furbolg.
How cute he is!
He's real cute.
Super cute.
Really
Look at
cute.
those ears.
Look at this little face.
It is honestly like heartbreakingly adorable. He is the youngest of 12. He's also the smallest of his family, standing only up 6.5 feet tall or something like that.
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah. So small. And I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give away all of Jesus. I don't want to give away all of his backstory because I think that there's some important beats there. But suffice it to say, the blight has an effect on more than just the biome itself. It has like a negative effect on anything that is alive and living sort of like in the sphere of it. And that has led to some pretty hard times in I'd say his village, but his family lives kind of in an isolated space. So, there's been like some negative stuff there. And as a result, he is out looking for a solution to the problem. And not just a solution to the blight problem, but also to his like personal problems with his family.
Could it be the same solution?
It might be. Who knows?
Might be the same solution.
I might know, but if I do, I certainly won't tell.
Nice.
Gosh. I cannot get over how cute Alex's character portrait is. The eyes really are what get me.
Almost as cute as Alex.
Almost as cute. Not quite though.
Not
Alex
quite.
is just a 10 out of 10 handsome boy.
Handsome fella.
Handsome man.
Just handsome fellas all around.
What's more likely, saving the world or an older relative apologizing to you? That is, honestly...
I mean, we all know the answer. It's saving the world.
Saving the world is
Yeah.
definitely a more reasonable...
Easy. Yeah.
Neither the former, fair enough. Is there anything else about these three in particular? Because I know that I can talk about the second trio all day. So I want to make sure that these guys get all the love and attention that they deserve. Omar, is there anything here in chat that you feel like you really want to share about your character or about their backstory or about their childhood or their wants or their fears or...
Yeah, but like also like there's a lot that like I didn't want to bring up just because like this is going to be really good to like dive into
Yes.
from like a narrative standpoint for all the viewers.
Yeah.
So like I didn't want to like, spill all the tea because it is a heavily steeped, very rich dark brown tea.
How about this, Zeki? Can you give us a little nug, a little cliffhanger nug?
Ooh. I mean, besides the fact that whenever I told y'all that there was like many reasons why I was like scared of this character when I first saw them. Like it wasn't just because they were just a big large creature and because I'm small, but like because I had seen them one other time and that other time was not such a good time.
Yeah,
That's a
What I
good
was-
nug.
what I was going to say is that there's a lot of I when I DM, the conflict that I like is the interpersonal conflict within the party as opposed to combat. Not that there won't be combat, but that to me is juicier and much more fun than combat, which can get a little bit droll. And so there's a lot of like there will be a lot to explore. And it is my goal to make every single player in the campaign cry at least once, because of their backstory specifically. Right? Like something there, whether it's tears of joy or tears of sadness, remains to be seen. But that's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What if they are joyous tears of sadness?
That works too.
You know what I mean? Like, ooh, because that's like the kind of like campaign I see us also having.
Yeah.
Is like, yeah, they're like, you're gonna be crying because like something finally happened that you've been waiting for, but it's also like that like doomed horizon you saw on like it was that dark storm out 7 miles at sea, and you knew you were like sailing into it. Oh, it's gonna be very good, everyone. I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Any final thoughts on this trio?
Oh, they're so cute.
They are so cute.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ever gonna get over how cute this one is though. Like you two look great, but like look at the eyes. Oh, they're so
I you know when you look at it like a lamb and you just know how soft their ears are. I look at Billion and I just want to like touch his just those ears.
All right. Any final thoughts before we move on to the second trio?
No, I don't want to reveal anything else.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, look at those cobalt eyes though. Look at him. Look at he's such a sweetie
those
too.
dead beady little eyes.
Obligatory DM shot. Ben, is there anything you want to tell us about your character?
Yeah.
I am Legion.
Great.
That's all I got.
So the latter three. Oh, I'm not in here.
That was Ben's character when he went to his Yale secret. Society.
My ass, the secret society is.
Oh, I got full body shots for these guys.
Ow.
Look how
Oh,
special.
woo.
And let's pull out. Here we go. So, where do we want to start with these puppies?
I mean, Katie, you're here. Why don't we start with you?
I could talk for legitimately 2 hours just about my character. I have so much backstory.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I feel like you got room to play with. You can make those a little bit bigger. Let's get some.
Okay.
Yeah, let's stretch those ladies out. Oh, okay, never mind. I regret saying that.
Phrasing.
Let's stretch
my
those
God.
ladies out. Well, this is a Thady, so
It's true. A wee.
a wee, in fact. Yes.
A Wheatie, which we don't is not a breakfast cereal in this world.
Probably for the
okay.
better.
So, I mean, I think people know generally about who I am. I have a name now. It's Azad. And we've talked about in a lot of our world building streams. She comes from this Ireland. That's a Freudian slip if I've ever heard one.
She comes from the land
Ireland.
of Ireland.
She comes from this island that is populated by essentially what are the
What's the name of the island, Katie?
Acadia. I didn't choose that name. That name was chosen for me.
I'm not going to leave that one
A
alone.
mystical made-up island called Ireland.
Yay.
And essentially, these people are descendants of the first people, and the first people were made sort of with this primordial. Jesus Christ, primordial spark from the Prelori. So they, not that they actually have any kind of real connection at this point to the Prelori, but they have that like world spark and that connection to the actual like existence and the thing that connects all things inside of them. She is a reskinned Kalashtar, but we didn't want to deal with all the things that come with being a Kalashtar, and it actually made more sense in the world we built to sort of tie it into that integral piece of the foundation of the entire universe. So this island is descendants of the first people. They are very focused on education and on learning and preserving of history and traditions. So they spend their first roughly 17, 18 years doing both practical and book studying, but all on the island. So they never leave the island. Any kind of practical combat training they do is in a secure environment that is meant for education. And when they turn 18, they go out to do, we don't have a word for it yet, what is essentially their pilgrimage or field work into the mainland continent, where they put everything that they have learned into practice, but also gather more information to bring back to the island where they live. And so she is currently out on that. Calling it field work feels very academic, and we do need to find another word for it. But she is out doing her field work at the moment. Honestly, most they're Mormons.
It is. It's a mission.
There is very little about my backstory that people don't know. I think I'm one of the few that has a lot of strings, but not a lot of like dark secrets, which I also think is why I can talk for a while about her, because most of this is not necessarily common knowledge, but known by other people in the party will come up pretty quickly. So because she grew up on this very sheltered, idyllic island, she was prepared for, how money works and how the socioeconomic and political systems are structured, but she was not prepared for people and for the actual way that people can be and can take advantage of each other and can lie to each other. And she met this essentially, we said he was an energy tycoon of some kind, right? That he was like mining those crystals, I believe is what we said, those spell crystals.
Like ether crystals, yeah.
So yeah, those ether crystals. So essentially like the equivalent of an oil baron in like the turn of the century, but like not this century, but you know what I mean. Or like a tech bro. And she meets this guy. He's incredibly charming. They have this like very love bomby whirlwind relationship. She marries him. She ends up having children with him, and he turns out to be exactly what you would expect from a tech bro, oil tycoon type person. And also an incredibly powerful magic user, like more than 10 times more powerful than she is at the moment, because we haven't leveled up from level 1 yet. So he's, I don't know, do you say like 20 times more powerful than she is? What numeric value would you give her ex-husband's character, or I guess current husband, but her husband's character level?
I'd say at this point probably 12 to 13 times.
12 to 13 times? Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And so she essentially after so she has 3 children. Let me do some quick math. So 24.
Oh boy.
Sorry.
That's one hell of a spring break though.
I know, right? 3 kids after spring break. Doesn't usually go that way.
Probably not the first time that's happened.
It's after about like 6 or 7 years, she finally has a moment of being like, I need to fight back. Like, this isn't how I want to live my life. This isn't the life I want to have for my children. He basically he uses a lot of legal loopholes, I would say. He doesn't do anything corrupt in order to do this, but he has her declared as essentially an unfit mother. Potentially, I believe, has like had her be declared by some doctor as being completely insane.
He's ridiculously wealthy, right? Like if he wants someone to like do a thing for him, he's like, okay, what's your price?
Yes.
I don't care. Just tell me.
So he has essentially expelled her from the house and expelled her from the city and like the surrounding areas. And he is still financially supporting her to maintain the illusion of being a benevolent I don't think that they're even legally divorced at this point. I think just like being a benevolent husband who is taking care of her by sending her away and like keeping the children safe. So her whole motivation at this point in time is to gain enough power that she can go back and retrieve her children, which right now she knows is not feasible or possible. So she has been spending the last 6 or so months. She is now, well, let's see. So sorry, would have been 10 years, not 7 years. So she is now 28 years old. And she has spent the last 6 or so months doing what she knows how to do, which is researching. So she's been going from library to library in different places all over the continent with our little friend over here, who we will get into in a moment, trying to find essentially ways to neutralize magic users, because she knows how powerful her husband is, and trying to figure out ways to, I think she's done a little bit of that, and then a little bit of also business research and looking into his business dealings, like the types of things that he has done, to see if she can find any way to take him down that way as well. But really, you know, she doesn't know much other than, if you need information, you go to the library. So that's really what she's been doing for the last 6 months.
Also worth noting that in a world where everyone is pretty inherently magical, that looking up how to neutralize a magic user is like a big old red flag.
Yes.
Like the only reason that you would do that is because like you wish someone harm.
Yes.
Which might be something that
average amount of harm.
Above average.
Yeah, truly. So that's probably something we're gonna have to get into at some point, if like somebody's been keeping tabs on you for him. It's like, yeah, she's Googling some shit. I'm just saying, yeah.
Googling, yes.
Exactly.
The magical Google that every magic user has access to.
It's just a being of light with a very dark side.
Honestly, it's called the internet, and it's just a big net. You go and you got to try to find the little scroll that you want,
like
on the
climb across it, and you can get lost.
Yeah. And sometimes you end up at places that you really didn't want to see,
some,
and
like,
you can't unsee.
Weird time dilation where you'll go and you're like, okay, I've got 15 minutes. I'm just gonna get there and get back.
And then it's like 6 hours later.
It's been 3 days.
So she is, in a lot of ways, she grew up very quickly, and then in a lot of other ways is very ill-equipped to deal with the world, especially because she went from, you know, again, this sort of like utopian space, which again, something I want to talk about is like how the ethics of a utopia existing in a world that is so terrible, and that sort of like closed circuit mentality of, if it's not ours, we don't care about it. But that's something for Ben to deal with at some point. There's also the underlying dynamic as well, of which I think Ben, we've talked about this before, but Ben asked me, like, are you upset with your family for sending you out without sort of the tools that you need to be able to exist and be safe? And I said that I think that if she starts thinking about blame in that context, that she will completely disintegrate. So as of right now, all of the blame is going towards the world and towards her husband, but that would be a very fun thing to explore at some point, because there probably is a level that if she allows herself to feel, she would be incredibly upset, that she was so wildly unprepared, and that it didn't just affect her, it also affected her family and her children.
I mean, I think it's an important thing to note that, like, in a society that is so based around, or so focused on the acquisition of knowledge and information and documentation of history, there's a distinct, I would imagine, a distinct lack of interest in like the goings on of the people specifically. It's like very much the histories of the kingdoms and whatever else, like all the big stuff, while kind of ignoring the plight of the individual, which I think is how you ended up in a situation where you come from this place where like you are so educated and yet so wildly unprepared to deal with like how evil people can be, where it's like, oh, I'm going to just use my money to make your life a living hell and have all the things that I want, and you're going to get totally shafted. But that's not the kind of thing that they would ever be interested in documenting. So you get there and it's like, oh, here's this like charming, handsome guy, and then it's like, oh, I there are definitely red flags along the way that just no one had ever thought to document or talk about.
And I think that there's something with like the what's what I'm looking for, philosophy of her people, which is because they have been around, not necessarily these individual people, because her like ancestry has been around for so long. The people in the world are not as important as the structures in the world, because the people come and go, but it's those bigger ideas that are kind of what you can catalog through time and see trends and that sort of thing. And so I think that there is a bit of a, I almost want to say a hubris, which is like, we don't need to know about the individuals. All we care about is these thoughts and these ideas, and like the wars, and like who won what war, and what was the technology that helped to do that, and what do these structures look like, and the rise and fall of this empire. And I think that that's probably potentially could be a bit of a Achilles heel for them as a whole, because of the disinterest in the actual individual experience. So that's me. And
no biggie.
Speaking of time dilation, am I right? Holy moly.
I told you I could talk about it for a while. I haven't even talked about everything. I'm just trying to give that little, put it in a box, tie it up overview. So there's also Patchwork, correct?
Correct.
So they are, well, they were a hive mind.
They still refer to themselves.
They still
as
think of themselves as being part of a hive mind, but they are no longer with the hive when this campaign is starting. And they, I guess, gosh, Ben, how much of Patchwork's backstory do you want to share?
I mean, there's some like basic stuff, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, your relationship with Patchwork, I think, is something we can touch on. I think it's important to know that Patchwork has been on Mitra for 320 years, which is a not insignificant amount of time. We did. I was like, roll, I don't know, some roll me a, what was it? I think I was just like, roll a D100.
Yeah.
And then Rachel was like, can I add a 0? And I was like, yeah, fuck it, why not? So, with the they've been there with the intent of cataloging. That's their shtick.
Yep.
I don't necessarily want to go into too much detail, but Patchwork is experiencing feelings and
severe separation anxiety.
And it's like really struggling with like describing feelings as a being that was never intended to have them in the first place, and is under the impression that they are malfunctioning.
Yes.
Or that's at least the verbiage that they're using. Whether or not that's how they actually think about it, it's a thing that we'll explore as we go through the campaign. And I don't want to like air all of Patchwork's like inner machinations or thoughts without Rachel Big here. So
yep,
that's what I'll say. But Katie, I know that you that Azad and Patchwork have a pretty special relationship. So maybe you want to talk about that a little bit.
So about 2.5, 3 months after essentially getting expelled from my home, I was at a winter solstice festival in a town probably quite far away from where I was originally from. I imagine I got put in like either some form of transportation, whatever it is that we have. I was going to say a car, but I don't know if cars are extant in this world, and sent very far away. And I was at this winter solstice festival by myself, just sort of trying to figure out what my next move was going to be. And everyone was with their families. I was sitting in the back, and I looked over, and at the other end of the bench was this little eyeball creature who also looked very alone. And I mean, to me, they looked lonely. I'm not sure if that is what they were experiencing. So I just...
or if it's a thing that, like a Modron's face can convey.
Yeah, but also
maybe a little projection?
I think there's a little bit of maternal projection going on as well. But I just sort of scooched over to them and sat with them during this Winter Solstice Festival. And afterwards, I asked them where they were staying, and they were sort of like, "Oh, I don't know where I'm staying." And I was like, "Well, that's ridiculous." And I took them under my wing and have, again, in a healthy or unhealthy way, become a maternal figure towards them. And as they say, there are very few people that outrank Patchwork, but Mistress outranks Patchwork. And that is, whether that is a declaration of love or just a very logical way of perceiving our relationship, that's sort of what we got going on there.
It's both.
It's it's both.
Yes.
So we are very much a duo, and Patchwork has been helping me since Patchwork's whole purpose is cataloging anyway. We've just been going from library to library. They have been helping me to sort of catalog information while also cataloging information for themselves. And that's that little fantastic duo.
Who has, because of the nature of Patchwork as a mechanical being, has led you on, I think, probably a number of occasions at this point to interact with Ryan's character.
Yes.
Reverie.
Yes.
Which is that lovely young lady there in the middle. Would you like to talk about Ryan's character? Or maybe maybe your experiences with Ryan's character as you guys have, as you and Patchwork have, and you've had a number of interactions because of Patchwork. So
sure, yeah. So I know Ryan because when I first came over to do my field work, need a better name, my family and my sort of school, I guess, has a point of contact who exists in one of the bigger cities on the continent.
Galtza.
And Galtza?
Galtza.
My essentially cohort and I came through there. And as they do, this person hosted a big dinner for us, introduced us to some of the locals. And Ryan's character was one of the sort of many eclectic people who this person had collected into their, I don't want to say employ, but they're sort of creating a diverse group of people with a diverse set of skills is the best way that I can.
I'll talk about.
Yeah. Why don't you do that?
Well, I was going to say I can do that maybe towards the end because it does kind of include all of you.
Yes.
So I think once we sort of we talk about this sort of these two groups of three, I think we can delve into that a little bit. Yeah.
So and that person is Ryan's patron. And
important to note, not patron in the sense of a warlock, patron as in a more traditional sense, somebody who pays bills, helps them have housing, food, that sort of thing, is getting paid for her character to go to school. That's what we mean by patron in this instance.
Yes.
Whereas in Zeki's case, we mean that very much in the traditional warlock, patron passes power to recipient.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Important to note.
So Ryan's character is incredibly handy. She and I, on multiple occasions at those sort of parties very early on, gravitated towards one another just because neither one of us felt super comfortable and just both had very inquisitive minds and that sort of thing. But because I know that she is very good with tools, when I met Patchwork, Patchwork had... What did Patchwork have initially on their arm?
It was just a stick.
It was just a stick, right?
It was a literal stick.
A twig arm.
Yeah, it was a twig arm. Yeah.
And I, after a bit of time with them and seeing them sort of struggle with the makeshift twig arm, I was like, hey, I have someone who I think could help fix this. So Patchwork and I went to... What is Ryan's character's name?
Reverie.
Went to Reverie, and I asked her if she could do some tinkering on Patchwork, and we spent a couple days living on Reverie's floor, getting Patchwork all tuned up. And at a certain point during that time, I asked her if she would be willing to, since it's sort of back in closer to the area where my husband and children are, to just sort of keep an ear to the ground for me and let me know if she hears anything either about my kids or about my husband. And I don't remember if we decided this or not, but I think we talked about having sending stones.
Yeah, that was the thing. I thought you and I talked about that after the
Yeah.
fact, and I've been thinking that I want to give you guys all sending stones in sort of like a, I don't know. I mean, this is like a really magical world. Why wouldn't there be essentially the equivalent of like cell phones?
So yeah, so I've just asked her to please keep an eye and ear and nose and throat out for my family. I just started naming body parts and I didn't want to stop.
It's okay,
shoulders,
Katie.
knees and toes, knees. Okay.
But yeah, so that's the three of us.
Mhm.
Ben, do you want to talk any more about Reverie? Maybe anything I didn't hit on? I know that she's an orphan. I know that there's some other pieces there. And I know Ryan is going to try to pop into the stream, but she had some family stuff she had to
Yes.
attend to. So
Nothing crazy. A dead car battery that's getting finagled that is decided
You
to be
said-
more of a journey than it needs to be.
you said nothing crazy and then said a dead, and I was like, where
Car
is this?
battery. Dead car battery.
Car battery.
Car battery.
So yeah, tell us more about Reverie.
So Rev is an orphan. Or, you know, is under the impression, who knows? Maybe
Actually, none of us are
so
orphans.
so that is actually my little twist there that I have not talked about with Ryan, but like maybe is probably the person who is the most directly connected to like my like hook for all of you guys, which is her patron, because he the way that they met essentially is that Reverie has always been like super mechanically inclined, and like fairly early on in life would take essentially pieces of junk and then turn them into things that were relatively useful and pawn them for money to survive. Because of this patron's interest in sort of cultivating like essentially like the next generation of really brilliant thinkers and people who are going to show up in a way for the world that is positive, he like has a weird network of people and kind of keeps. Also, I think like his background is potentially a little bit checkered himself, from his younger years, and I think that consequently like he keeps tabs on things like has like relationships with pawn shop owners, because you never know where you're gonna find like that next really bright mind, and so when all these like weird little trinkets that were really well made kept turning up, eventually started asking around. I was like, okay, who is this person and how do I find them? And it turns out it was like a kid. Who he was like, look, you don't know me, you don't have any reason to trust me, but I think you're really smart, and I don't want to see you just like living on the street. And then was like, I want to get you a place to live. I want to make sure that you have food on the table, and I want to send you to school, which has left her with this like feeling of very serious, like owing a very serious debt to this person, despite the fact that he has at every turn been like, this is like, you don't have to pay me back, just like like, truly pay it forward, like show up for the world, have a positive impact, make it a better place, leave it better than you found it, and that's good enough for me. So she has Monk, that just to call it out here, like this is Rev is a homebrewed class called a survivalist, and so she has like the tattoos on her arms are part of sort of like her racial background, her like her class background, and we haven't entirely determined like all the juicy bits, but we do know that there is the potential that she has siblings, but she doesn't know if she does or not, and so one of the things is like those tattoos are based on your like they're sort of familial. So there's like a bit of your lineage is tied to them, like the designs, the colors, the patterns that they use, whether it's more of these like soft lines or like geometric shapes. There's information there, and whether or not she chooses to pursue that information is very much up to her. But it is a thing that we talked about. So we've got like this interesting dynamic there of like there is knowledge that there is like something out there. Whether or not she wants to choose to pursue it, up to her. Part of it is that like the reason that she hasn't been prior to this is like 1, surviving on the street, and then 2, like getting through school, because there was very much like and I owe it to my patron to make sure that I get through school. And is now like has recently graduated and now finds herself with some free time, which is pretty cool. And I think one of the other things that we talked about is like she's pretty travel averse, which is going to be an interesting thing for the party to kind of figure out. And I asked specifically, I was like, okay, so like if your patron was like, hey, look, there's this thing, would you say no? And she's like, I don't think she would, but it would be as short as possible. So, there's gonna be some inter-party conflict right from the get-go, which is like, how do we get this person to come with us, like to stick around when we're traveling, because that's a thing that she has avoided for her entire life.
I think that was something we talked about, where we had asked her if she was interested in joining Patchwork and I, and she was like, "No, I'm good, thank you."
yeah, very very much was like, nope, this is my place. This is where I belong.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that there's a piece of that from what she said, is that she's travel averse because she wants anyone who needs to find her to know where she is, because of like a little bit of that residual trauma of not having family.
Doesn't want to get lost again.
Yeah.
And not lost in the sense of like, I don't know where I am, but misplaced as in if somebody's looking for me, there's a chance that they know to find me here. And if I go and I do have family and they are looking for me, then like I might miss my opportunity to reconnect.
Yeah.
Which is, that's some heavy shit.
So on a different note about that though,
Mm-hmm.
could her tattoos that she then have be like wrong?
Could they be wrong?
Yeah,
Ooh.
like if she has like siblings and it's like telling your family story a little bit or something like that.
Or maybe just incomplete. I don't know.
Yeah, like I don't know how it works with
that's a great question.
Is that something
honestly,
that then she'll have to like confront?
Gonna put a note in here.
Because I could totally see that being like a major like part of like character development, is like getting the completed tattoo or something, or like this is all the tattoo that I thought I was ever gonna need. And like, how does like found family like play into that? Like,
well, that's a great question. We're gonna have to figure that one out as we go.
Yeah.
And it may prove to be more important. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But the one thing I know, there's gonna be a lot of it. Like, there's a lot of trauma to be explored over the course of this campaign. And not just trauma, but also like, Omar had said specifically, like, I want this character to be an exploration of my neurodivergence, right? Like, here's this character who is very awkward and really struggles with the understanding of how to interact with the world around them. And so sort of has resorted to and relies very heavily upon this persona of this like dapper gentleman to sort of like get through. And for anyone who is familiar with autism and how that works, masking is a huge piece of how you get through the day. And this is his mask, right? Like, this is the character's mask. Is like, I put on, he's got like a flair for the finer things in life. He really likes those things. And this is the persona that he puts on to get through conversations with everyone. So, it'll be interesting to see if maybe over the course of the campaign, as you guys get to know one another, if he feels less and less like he has to mask around you guys, or if he feels like he needs to maintain that. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I'm excited. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. there's a not insignificant amount of this is going to be like therapy via Dungeons and Dragons, which I think is sort of like a funny thing.
I'm excited.
Yeah, makes me feel like I should, I don't know, like go read a book on psychology or something before we start.
I think you should, for sure.
Tell me how you feel about that. Actually, I think there will be a certain amount of conversations that are like, okay, so you're like having these problems, like let's talk about it. Or maybe you guys will be having those conversations and you guys all need to read the books on psychology and I don't have to do any of that.
Is this going to be a thing where it's like you pull us aside and we're like breaking the fourth wall like an NBC show? Like
you know, that has occurred to me a couple of times. Like, are there going to be moments where like I essentially will be a little bit of your internal monologue and ask questions of you about your characters as like a sort of like a full fourth wall break of just like what you're experiencing internally? I don't know.
Yeah, like, are you gonna like eventually like have like just like either questions for like straight up the players during all of this, and or just like you asking one of the PCs like in character, and it's like all of a sudden we're like, I don't know, dude. Like that is heavy, or
that's kind of my
something
plan.
like
I mean,
that,
I feel like I kind of set a precedent for that over the course of our like session 0, where like I was asking some like pretty pointed questions about not just like tell me about your backstory, but like, okay, there is this thing that is happening to your character, and how do you feel about that? What was, you know, that experience like? Like, where does that leave you with this person, or you know, how does that leave you feeling about yourself? And I definitely plan to continue to have those asides. So maybe it'll be, as opposed to sort of like an after the fact like check-in, it'll be like a during the session, like, hey, let's touch base real quick. Like, let's find out how you doing, how you feeling about that. There's our little group. Oh, they're such cuties.
Hold on, I'm gonna put up the full group photo now that we're done talking about.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. While we've got the full group here, let's talk, I guess, a little bit about this mysterious patron. Name to be not decided but disclosed, so TBD later.
Oh, I just realized
Ben. He's the dungeon master.
I just realized I don't know what my husband's name is. Do you have a name for him?
I have some ideas.
Ooh,
We'll
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk.
Yeah, we will talk. Or I'll spring it on you and just we'll all watch you react. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, tell me about this patron.
Yeah, so we have this patron who we've sort of established has already helped Ryan's character Reverie like get through life. Is the point of contact for Katie's family. And I was thinking about this, and I think that they are the point of contact for like a portion of the of this continent because of like their relative status. But I think that there are other points of contact like on the other continent, the Western continent, and there's like multiple people out there. So he's not the only person who sort of like fills this role. This just happens to be like the area that is his purview. Let's see. He is also he provides a lot of funds to the monastery that that Al spent a lot of time in.
Oh yeah.
I think like just sort of out of like childish curiosity, because he is a pixie. I'll tell you guys that much. He is a pixie. And so there is this like, you know, sort of lighthearted interest in fun in addition to like a much more serious drive to like bettering the content that he lives in. But there is like a certain amount of like just kind of having these like fun little curiosities that he's like, yeah, you know, fuck it, I'm gonna like go down that rabbit hole. And I think at some point it kind of came to his ears that there was like a tiny little kobold and a furbolg that were like doing like a buddy cop thing or a buddy detective thing, and he was like, I mean, I'm curious, I've got to see this, and so like has hired them to do, you know, probably something that was like maybe fully concocted of his own volition, but like made a mystery for them to solve just to like see it play out. Definitely a little bit inspired by Puck from A Midsummer Night's Dream. There is a
I was
certain
about
amount of
to
that.
say,
Yeah.
like, I get that vibe.
Yeah. Like that is one of my all-time favorite Shakespearean characters, and I think that there is more than a little bit of that like interest in like mischief that carries over into this character. Like, he's not trying to hurt anybody, but like, you know, sometimes it's fun to just like create a thing and be like, hey, I'm gonna hire you guys because I'm ludicrously wealthy, so it doesn't really matter, and I'm just trying to like put this money into places where it's like gonna actually be useful. And you two are this like weird duo that I think I just kind of love for the absurdity of it. So he knows all of the characters already just by virtue of who he is, which is how I'm going to then pull strings to get them all into the same place, because I think, Katie, you tweeted about it, right? That we're gonna have like the two sessions with 2 chunks.
Yep.
Yep.
I don't know if well,
maybe not explicitly.
I don't think I was explicit about it. I think
Okay.
I just said we're starting on the 10th. I didn't
Cool.
explain what was going to
So
happen.
everyone on the 10th,
you can tune in, and I don't know which group is starting, but
it'll be the A team.
It's the
A-team?
it's the ladies. The ladies.
Okay. The ladies and ladies.
Yes.
So we're gonna have Patchwork and Azad and Reverie first, sort of traveling to a place, or essentially having an interaction with their patron, or with Rev's patron, who's like, hey, I've got a thing for you. And then the following week it'll be the guy's turn, and they will get a similar summons, and then I need to figure out a way to get them all to mash themselves into one big group. I may choose violence, or I may choose intrigue, and I don't know which it's going to be yet.
I'm
about
very
violent
excited.
intrigue.
I might also be violent. Yeah, true. Why limit myself to just one?
Why?
I know.
Or maybe I'll just fucking bribe you and be like, hey, here's 150 gold if you go like do shit with these guys. Thoughts? Or maybe it'll
150
be
gold if you go out and hang out in the woods in this exact spot.
go get really high at this particular location between this date and this date, and when other people show up, be cool, and I'll give you money. Now that's a plot hook nobody needs. Yeah, I haven't figured out how I'm going to join you all at the hip yet, but we'll get there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited.
It should be a good time. Yeah.
Who isn't
And
excited?
part of what we're going to do also, I think I'm going to. I will touch on it at the beginning of each of these session 0.5s, but I will also reiterate it at the beginning of our first official main session 1. I was chatting with a friend of mine.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. You guys know Wolfgang, so and those of you who don't know Wolfgang, you will at some point soon. But he was talking about how I think a lot of people have this idea that the conversation around lines and veils and boundaries and X cards is this big drawn out kind of heavy thing. It doesn't have to be. And so we're gonna do that at the top of the session 1, because why not? Just to show how simple and easy it really can be, and the fact that honestly, if you don't do it, it is regardless of your feelings about sessions and I know my players, but reiterating hey, if we get to a point where things are feeling too heavy, or maybe because some of these characters are based on some pretty personal stories, truly personal stories, you might end up feeling a little bit too emotionally keyed into what's going on to be able to handle it. Having an out is important, and having an out that you guys watching know will allow it to I think be a little bit more of this communal understanding of what's happening. So if at some point something happens and somebody's whoa, I actually can't do this right now, if we have to end the session right there, that you guys watching aren't just kind of what the fuck just happened? I guess I'll wait for a tweet. I don't know. There can be this understanding of okay, if it ends abruptly, you will still get a tweet. We'll still let you know. But
no tweets.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind. Sorry. So, I want you guys to know what's happening and to sort of be sort of included essentially in that conversation. So if something comes up, you're just as aware of it as the rest of us are, because that feels important to me, because we've put a pretty significant emphasis on transparency around like world creation and character creation and backstories and all of that stuff. And I want you guys to continue to feel like you're part of those conversations and aware of what's going on. Because that feels, I don't know, it feels like a good way to sort of be mindful of this little community.
Yeah.
So it feels right.
It does feel right.
It feels right. And also, there's a reason that we're streaming it, right? If we just wanted to do it for us and us alone, we wouldn't stream it.
Yeah.
So feels like if this is the way that we're going to be, approaching this campaign, it's important to keep everyone looped in.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yes.
And Monk, Ryan and I have to have a conversation about that more specifically. So I'll keep you in the loop about whether or not that multi-class down the line is a thing. I don't know. So be on the lookout. Ryan and I will chat, and maybe that's an avenue she wants to go down. Maybe not. I think that it might also be somewhat story driven. So it may be something that like we have a conversation now, and she's like, I don't really think I want to do that. Or like I'll see, but like not that important at this moment. And then however long from now is like, actually, yeah, that feels very much.
Well, we also need to level up first.
You do also need to level up first.
We're still level 1. Yeah. I think you said that our 2 session like 0.5s or 0.0 whatever it is, that we were going to go from 1 to 3. Is that correct still?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So the plan is essentially like at the break, roughly halfway point, you guys will level up to level 2, and at the end you'll level up to level 3. And that'll be how we get you guys to the point where I want to kind of kick things off.
Our minds will be molded enough.
Yeah, exactly. And Monk, it's not about your content specifically, it's about like the trajectory of the character. Yeah.
Monk, we had quite a session 0. There's a lot of stuff that we can't say.
Yes.
For the sake of the story and for like the reveals that you all will have while things are unraveling and playing out in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully a lot of what we discussed gets aired out like dirty laundry kind of thing, like pretty quickly.
Yes.
But it might not, and we don't want to make like something that's like a session 1 reveal that could have actually have been like a end of the campaign. This is actually my motivation. Thanks for the fish.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I know how I'm going to multi-class, and I don't even know for sure that that's where I'm going to end up going. If I have an idea of the way that I want to take my multi-classing with like a cleric druid sort of situation. Why are you?
I'm just thinking about. I'm wondering if do we have anyone that isn't planning on multi-classing? I feel like you're all like.
I don't know if I was actually planning on multi-classing.
Okay.
But I mean, the night is young.
I might end up being a full cleric because I might be like, this feels more authentic to my character. I've got a cool build that I'm like, I would love to see this character grow into that. I think it's life domain cleric 6, 14 circle of stars, no moon, no stars. Fuck, I don't know. I'd have to look at my notes. But it's a cleric druid thing that I would love to do. Who knows?
Yeah.
And then Omar's looking at cleric monk or warlock monk. We're just kind of gonna.
Could be an interesting thing to see, like how that warlock bit slots in. Like, how do we find a patron for you, or how do you stumble into a patron? There's like a lot of things that are up in the air that are going to determine how I mean, not a lot of things. Literally, it's going to be story driven, right? Like if somebody is being driven towards becoming a paladin because of something that happened that is now like their thing, then that's where we're gonna go.
Yeah. We're gonna let the story tell us what we need to do on our character sheets.
Yeah.
How's that for flowery?
Boom. Also, we have no idea, so don't ask.
Also that.
Y'all, I don't have like a main campaign line put together yet. That's not true. I've got some main story beats, but like I don't know how the fuck anything's gonna happen. So
it's gonna be group storytelling, which is yeah. Very quickly, unless there is anything else that we really feel like we need to recap from the session 0. I was thinking we don't go too long.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about what's going to happen for the rest of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And then we raid Schlibbity because Schlibbity is online.
Schlib's online?
Schlib's online.
Oh, hell yeah, we should raid Schlib.
Yeah.
Schlib is online?
I know.
We should definitely do that.
Gotta get that raid in there. So tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, we have part 5 of the Opera House. I'm calling it part 5. I don't know if that's accurate. It's been a while. I need to refresh my brain.
It might be part 6.
It might be part 6. Who knows? It's some part of an opera house. I think there's combat. Yes, there is, because I was really nice to you guys last time. Gave you lots of magic items and let you take long rests and heal up. And I'm gonna fuck your shit tomorrow night.
Jesus.
That sounds...
Wow.
I don't know if that was a promise or a threat, honestly.
That sounds like both, honestly.
Yeah, it was a little bit of pile A and a little bit of pile B. I mean,
Pile?
Oh, pile?
God,
Jesus
why?
Christ.
Why? I mean, I know why, but why?
So yeah, Opera House tomorrow at 9. Then on Thursday, hopefully at 7, we do need to chat to Balra about this. We're hoping to do our second part of our interview series with her. If you missed part 1, it might still be on the Twitch, but it is definitely on the YouTube. It was a really great conversation about everything from neurodivergency to improv to writing TTRPGs to I don't even know what else we talked about, honestly. It was a very eclectic and really interesting conversation.
I think we were just about to get into the improv, and that was going to be the focus of this next session, because we talked about like the other things, and then we're like, oh, and we have this whole other topic that we could probably spend 2 hours on.
Yep. Sweet. So let me just kick off this little raidy poo. Zeki.
Toss the link. I just put the link to
the YouTube
video
Smart
in chat. Nice. So if you are interested in watching it, there's the link.
Anything you want to plug, Zeki? Any natural one shiz going on that people should know about?
We should be getting an episode out sometime this week. Been working on that. And then, we have not this week, but next week should be having next Wednesday night another storyboard episode where we do like the frame by frame of the meta game.
Cool.
That's my little tagline for it right now.
That's awesome.
I like it. It's a good tagline.
Yeah, and as long as the stars align properly, I think I was going to be having these two lovely people into talk about this campaign, actually.
Yeah. We're recording a podcast that night, but we'll do it either before or after. That reminds me. I guested on Screen Snark, which is Rachel Corky's podcast, along with Matt. And that episode dropped today. So if you want to hear me talking about movies and TV and things like that, as well as Rachel and Matt talking about movies and TV and things like that, you should go check that out.
Where can that be found, Katie?
I believe anywhere that podcasts are found.
Oh my.
Oh, interesting.
Oh my.
We have a link for such things.
We rated.